You are now listening to the Living Numbers and Tony Rambles. Tony Rambles. Tony Rambles. Rambles. And the Living Numbers Podcast.
This is the Living Numbers Podcast, and I am your host, Tony Rambles. Shout out to everyone listening to this, either live via the Wisdom app. Shout out to you guys. Anyone who's watching this on YouTube later on, or listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts, welcome to the Living Numbers Podcast. I have my esteemed, wonderful, gorgeous, multi-time guest, my excellent wife on here. Say hello, Kia.
Hello, everyone. It is an awesome time to be back at the Living Numbers Podcast.
She's talking like she's all meek and stuff. Don't believe it.
I am meek.
She is
and
a
mild.
true baller.
A true baller.
In every sense of the word. She will get you 40. But we've got a great episode. But before I go on, we got to do the housekeeping. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, download, follow. If you are listening to this on podcast medium, or if you're listening to me on Wisdom, make sure you guys follow. And of course, check it out wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can also watch it on YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram at _Tony Rambles _. You can also email the show, OneTonyRambles@gmail.com. Please do that. I would love to hear your feedback. Tell me what you guys like, what you don't like, what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear. I am all ears. Now, for our first number. The number is 224. Now, you may go, well, that's an obscure number. For my people who follow NFL football, the NFL draft is coming up. Yes, it is. The NFL draft where all of your dreams come true as a football fan. Now, my wife is not a football fan. She doesn't even like watching football because it's too slow.
Mm-hmm.
However, we're not here to talk about football.
Okay.
So, the last person picked in the draft is number 224, and they are tagged as Mr. Irrelevant for that year's draft. That sounds a bit harsh.
That's what they're calling him?
Yes.
That's his name?
Every year, whoever gets picked last, that person's name, that's Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah, so if you're watching this, or if you're listening and not watching, my wife has a face on like, that's cringy. And
That's disrespectful.
that's true as well. But I think that name or that tag may go away, I feel like, due to the times that we live in now.
Yeah.
It's kind of
It
insensitive.
doesn't fly
No.
anymore. But, my thoughts are right.
Please.
He made it to the NFL still.
True.
Isn't that that's a rare event. Like, that's not
Yes.
as common as you think it is. It's not like, getting picked for your high school team or whatever, something.
Right.
Like,
You're the top 1% of the top 1%.
It's a big deal
It is a big
to make it to the NFL. So being Mr. Irrelevant is far from what he is.
Right. And there are plenty of people who don't even get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of people, many names that we know, like if you follow your local team or if you're a fan of a team, go blue. Those, like a lot of those people don't get picked as well, but they're not given any stigma based on where they're not picked. But they're calling that person irrelevant compared to the rest of the people in the draft. Now, my question is it good to compare yourself to others? Like, let's just frame it with that. Let's take it out of the NFL draft, okay? Because neither one of us are NFL players. That dream has gone by the wayside. That ship has sailed for me at 32, almost 33 years old. But comparing yourself to others, is it a fruitful exercise, or at least can it be? You can go first. What do you think?
I think there is room for comparison. I think that there needs to be guidelines to the comparison. So, say you're at work, right?
Right?
And or you work for a company or a business or wherever you work, right? You're not like self-employed where the only person you're comparing yourself to is yourself.
Right.
I think that if you want to be successful in what you're doing, I think that there needs to be some version of healthy comparison.
Right.
I believe we talked about this before. I said that you need to take the emotion out of it, and it needs to be more of an exercise of, okay, you see that the people that have come before you and that were successful in that role, they've created this standard, this benchmark. You need to be working to get to that benchmark.
If you want to be the best, like
if you want to be the best, if you care, if you're invested, right? If you really feel like that's where you want to be and you want to succeed in whatever that industry is, yes.
Like if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, that kind of thing. And if we're talking about NFL, like there's always this judgment, like who's the best. Anything competitive is always who's the best, and that comes with comparison. We can't know who the best is unless we're comparing people in the same field, and sometimes in different fields. Like you always hear the LeBron and the Michael Jordan, but you also hear like who's the best across all sports. And you got Tom Brady, and you got Bill Russell. Those guys have won a lot of rings. But this all came from me and another teacher, Dr. Menigu, who will be on the podcast at some point. We're going to make that happen. We were talking, and I was talking about singing because I sing at church. You know this, every week I sing. And I don't look at myself as the best singer, but I'm totally okay with that. It's not an emotional comparison for me. We know what a great singer sounds like. When you hear Whitney Houston sing, or when you hear, whoever, you throw somebody, Diana Ross, whoever you want to throw in there, Christina Aguilera is another person who you go, that's an amazing singer. I'm not that.
Okay.
I know that I'm not that, and that is totally okay. And so I think for me, it was never about like the emotion of I'm not good enough. It was just the realization of going, okay, this is what great is. I'm not that, but I feel like I'm good enough for what I need to do, which is lead songs on Sunday. And I also said I'm a decent singer, I'm a good singer, but I'm a great worshiper. Like I'm great at helping other people, lead them into worship and singing songs to God on Sundays and that sort of thing. Like I feel like I'm really good at that, and the energy that I bring. And that's where my value comes in. Like my value as a singer, like you can find people that sing better than me, but the other things, and that's what I really bring to the table that I guess make me more valuable
to
what we do with the praise team. And anywhere that I would go, I would bring that same energy and that same effort and that same care. So that's where it started with the story, because I was like, Torn Wheels, I'm not like those guys. And she came from a place like, don't compare yourself to others to make yourself feel less than or inadequate, because we live in a time where people are committing suicide for feeling that way, inadequate. And she went all the way there. I was like, whoa, time out. I had to call a time out on the play, but I understood where she was coming from at that moment when she talked about it in that way.
So then let me ask this. For people, because you're a very confident person.
I am.
You're confident and you're self-aware. And for someone who may not be confident, is it a good idea or a good practice to try to compare yourself?
I think being self-aware is the first thing
Mm-hmm.
that needs to happen, because
Mm-hmm.
we all have our deficiencies, and that's not something that I feel like people should be ashamed about. That's the difference for me, is my deficiencies don't make me feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
I just accept them for what they are. I'm
Sure.
5'8.5". Like, that's as tall as I'm ever gonna be. There's just nothing that I can do to correct that. Like, my hairline is moving back, my forehead is getting bigger. What do you want me to do? So once I accept those things, now I can start becoming confident in the things that I do know that I do well.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about energy, when we talk about speaking and teaching, those things, athletic ability,
Mm-hmm.
I am 100% confident in myself in those areas, because I know that I can do them well. So strengths and weaknesses, I guess we can kind of break it down into it being that simple. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses?
Mm-hmm.
Weaknesses, you can work on them as much as you can. You can make them better as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you have to accept yourself for who you are. Strengths, you just go all in where your strengths are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, part of who I am is I'm a speaker and I'm a teacher. So everything that I try to do is going to kind of line up with speaking and teaching. Like, so that's why I'm a teacher and I teach speech class. That's why I'm a podcaster. That's why I sing and praise and worship, and I do that kind of stuff. Like, all of that has to deal with voice and being able to teach and to help others. So I'm not going to go and try to be, I'm not going to try to work in construction. Like, that's not what I do. Like, I'm not going to try to go and work in something that's outside of my area, unless I'm prepared to kind of work more at it, because it's not my natural thing,
Mm-hmm.
and accept the learning curve that comes with it. Like playing guitar. Like, I don't have a natural ear to play music like some people do. You see like those 5-year-olds on Instagram, and they're just going crazy. You're like, man, that's a gifted person right there when they get the guitar or whatever they play. I'm not that, and I'm totally fine with that. So strengths and weaknesses, knowing what they are and understanding them, and just kind of accepting what you can't fix. What about you?
My thoughts were, if you're someone who hasn't, I don't want to say master, but you haven't gotten a handle on like regulating your emotions, or being able to separate your emotions from things, it's
Right.
not a good idea to try to jump into comparing right now. I would think more of your work needs to be on figuring out how to be more self-aware and what you can do to work on you. Like, not jumping to, okay, what are other people doing that I can
Right.
like mimic or do, because you will put yourself in a position where you begin to feel bad about yourself because you haven't met the marks that they have met.
Right. Sometimes we're comparing our step 1 to somebody else's step 9, step 10. And you are like, oh, I'm not good enough. But that person had a step 1 too
They
once
had a
upon a
step
time.
1 too, yeah. And a lot of times if you're in a healthy place and you are ready to, jump into comparing, a lot of what needs to be done is having conversations with those people and learning their journey, because they did have a step 1.
Yep.
And that could help you skip a few steps because they're willing to say, hey, I've been through X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And this is how I got to where I am now. Here's what I learned, and here's what worked and didn't work. And this would be helpful to you so that you can, meet those goals faster.
Yeah, you can listen to their stories. And that's what a lot of people like to do on podcasting and YouTube channels and becoming creators, is they want to be able to share their story and the issues that they had, so that other people can hopefully circumvent these things and not have to go through them themselves. Or they'll go, well, you're going to run into this. this is how you figure it out, or this is how I figured it out. Maybe that can help you. So, like, I know this was always a thing that for us being married was our marriage is going to be our marriage. Whatever that looks like is going to be something that is decided by us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be something that's all about comparing our marriage to other people's marriages.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was always something that I definitely kept in the forefront and still do. I know one thing that for me, and you could probably share something, I had to make sure like I wasn't comparing like our vacations or lack thereof to other people because we've never had a vacation before. For one thing, from one reason or another, and like we've tried, but we just haven't been able to really take a week-long vacation where we're not working and we're just having fun, spending money, soaking up the sun.
Soaking up the sun.
What about you?
I think that we are such different people, like to other married people that we encounter,
Mm-hmm.
that it just was never a wise decision to compare our marriage to other people's marriages.
Right.
I just feel like it would do more harm than good, and I think that that's actually a mark of maturity.
Yeah.
To know, hey, we've got this going on, and if we try to like, jump on somebody else's trail,
Mm-hmm.
we might derail the whole
Right. The whole train might
you know?
fall off the track.
Like, so my energy is spent in really making sure that we evolve together, really only checking in with you,
Absolutely.
so that we stay on the right track. Like, you and God are all I'm consulting in this. So
Yeah. I mean that's how we've been able to build like
mm-hmm.
what we have now. And I would say we're proud of it. We're happy where we are. We have our son who's sleeping. So we're doing this wonderful episode number 40 of the Living Numbers podcast live on Wisdom as well. We're doing this right now at almost 11 o'clock. It's 10:48, I think. And the Grizzlies are on
parent-free hours.
Yes, yes. And eventually he's going to wake up and want milk. But you mentioned God, and
Yes.
One of my favorite people, he does that a lot. And he's one of the principals at my school. And he had 20 minutes,
mm-hmm.
I think 2 weeks ago. They gave him 20 minutes. They know he's a talker. And he tries to motivate us all.
Mm-hmm.
And that led me to want to talk about this topic because I think I am different in this area. And me and that same teacher, Dr. Amendigo, we talked about this as well briefly. Her class is right across the hall from me. So we talk about just anything. She kind of feels like an older sister to me. Like I'm always like popping in. She's always trying to motivate me to go back to college and stuff. And so this principal gives this motivational speech. Right? And our number here is 20 minutes because that's how much time he had. And I am not big on motivational speeches. Like I don't care for them. I don't listen to them. Now, I'm not saying that they're bad, and I understand that people do like them but for me personally, I'm like I don't want to know. Like, all right, cool. Like that's fine. Whatever you did, that's great. I think that's part of me just kind of being confident, like you said earlier, and then being a little stubborn as well, wanting to do things my way. What do you think? I mean, you see me every day.
You're a little stubborn.
Oh, man. Y'all heard that? That's tough.
And I am also a little stubborn.
I think you're more stubborn than I am.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, all right. Hey, story time right here, guys. Here's some insight. So Kia appeared to be upset a few days ago. And I thought it was because of something I said.
Mm-hmm.
And so for like, I don't know, like a day and a half, I'm just trying to figure out like, dang, what did I say? What did I do? It's got to be this or this. I haven't done anything else that's going to make her mad. It's got to be one of these two things. And so I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, I hate when my wife is not talking to me. It don't even matter if it's my fault or not. So I think I did something wrong. And so come to find out, it wasn't even me. It was just some stuff that happened at work. So you probably could have kept that up for a little bit longer than I could have. At least I think so. I mean, I'm gonna crack at some point. At least when it comes to you. I don't know. If something is taking my energy, like I need to go fix it. I need to solve it. Okay.
See, I think the lesson for you there was to ask.
Yeah.
Because you didn't ask. You just kind of let.
Because they kind of coincided. I was like, crap. What did I do now? Something dumb. But motivational speeches, do you listen to them? Do you watch them? Like when you scroll past them on Facebook, is it like, oh yeah, I gotta check that out?
For the most part, no. They have to be done really well. Like it's almost gotta start off in a way where it wasn't a motivational speech at all. Like you kind of gotta trap me or trick me.
Yeah.
However, I will say as I've gotten older, as more life has happened to me and I've had more experiences, I think that has kind of shifted my thoughts on motivational speeches.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more open to them. However, I don't know, just it's not always executed well. Like the format for most motivational speeches are kind of like they're kind of cheesy. Like it's it's a little
like, hey, you're laying in your bed now. What are you doing? There's always things for you to do.
Yeah, like
there's always time.
Everest guy.
It's all about time. It's like, oh my, all right, okay, yes.
Like, no, please stop.
All right, whatever, man. But I understand where they come from because some people need that to get them up. So what keeps you motivated then? Like, how do you find, I guess, the will to just continue to do the stuff, especially the things that you don't want to do?
God.
Okay.
I know that is
in a nutshell.
Yeah, like that was really blunt or short.
Yeah.
I will say that one of the most important things that I've learned is that if I just focus my energy on being the greatest servant or a vessel for God, all of the rest of the things that I have to be and do will fall into place.
Nice.
So
wait, what does that look like? Give us an example of what that looks like at work or whatever, or wherever.
Basically, if I'm consistently working or striving to be, the fruits of the Spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm striving to constantly embody the fruits of the Spirit.
What are they? You know, Mom? I think it's like 7 of them.
It's like 7 of them. I have to sing this song.
Okay, here we go. Song time.
No, it's not.
Karaoke night.
No.
Hey,
no.
shout out to Samantha on the Wisdom app. She kills it on karaoke nights. If you're not following her, go follow her. Love.
So love.
Joy. Peace.
Patience. How does the song go? It's like
faithfulness. Your goodness is here.
Okay, but yeah, I'm not gonna sing because I'm not a singer at all.
Self-control.
Yes.
Kindness, goodness.
Faithfulness.
Yeah, I think that's A. You know what? If we miss one, just email the show or leave a comment on YouTube.
It's always when you're asked on the spot that they just all just kind of like, whew, it's gone.
I think we got most of them. Continue, please, continue.
But if you're striving to, work to embody the fruits of the Spirit because you're working unto God, you're being a servant to God, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When you're at work and you think of God as your boss, you'll naturally treat your clients or patients, in my case, well.
Mm-hmm.
When you're at home and you're being a spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're working unto God, that you will, I guess, experience the byproduct of me just being a
Who
good
God made you
servant.
to be,
Yes.
yeah. And trying to
And
do that.
so
Yeah.
the goal isn't to be good at a role, is to just be good in general.
That's good.
Thank you.
That's good. Okay, so it comes from the same place for me as well. I mean, obviously our Christian walks are very important to us, but I think people need to know the details of what that looks like, because people go, yeah, just follow God, trust God, and you go like, okay, what does that look like? How do I do that?
Yeah,
What are the
what's the action plan?
Yes, so give us a scenario. So like we'll just use work, because that's something that we can all relate to. Common ground there. So you're at work and you have a patient, in your case. They are irate and maybe they begin to throw things. Mm-hmm. Nothing that's going to be harmful. Like you're not going to have to. Well, you could choose to fight somebody if you want to, but
you could choose to fight somebody.
So like just paper, okay? Like they're throwing paper, like something that's not going to kill you or even hurt you, but it's a situation where you're uncomfortable. It can make you angry. In many cases, people will lose control, go off, and do all that kind of stuff. So what does that look like when you're quote unquote following God, since those are the words that you use?
I have a buzzword for when I'm on the struggle bus. So the buzzword is graceful. Because sometimes when you're in the midst of a situation, a whole scripture may not come to you, but a word can.
Yes.
And one of my biggest struggles in my walk, and one of the things that I didn't have the greatest example of in my childhood, was gracefulness. And so when I'm in a situation where things can go left really quickly, I count down and breathe, and I say graceful, like with each breath. So, yeah. So because, grace is what you're trying to get to.
Yep.
Breathing helps you regulate, you come down from angry to, okay, yes, this situation is disappointing. But my reminder word is, is going to help me get to the point where I can hopefully come up with the words and the actions, so that, I don't treat this person well because they're not treating me well.
Right.
Because ultimately, God will get your vengeance for you.
Yes, yes.
And so your job isn't to get vengeance. Your job is to handle the situation well, so that hopefully they see that you're acting gracefully, that you're acting, or not acting, I don't even want to say that word, but you're embodying God's peace and favor, and they'll want to embody that too. So hopefully they leave that moment inspired.
Right. That interaction will then, because sometimes, like, if you're calm, the person will see how much of a insert word here that they're acting, and they'll go. And a lot of times those people will then turn around and apologize. Because oftentimes, and we heard Papa J, I feel like is the first person that said this, hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
So a lot of times people are in a difficult situation and they just lash out because they're not thinking about, trying to be the best that they can be at that time. They just know that they're compromised, and now how do I fix this? And sometimes, a lot of times, unfortunately, and this is what we've been shown in our society, the way to fix it is to get angry and to say, oh, I'm going to show you.
Yeah, like you're mad, I'm going to be madder.
Yeah, oh, no, you're not going to do me.
Yeah.
You're not going to outdo how mad I am. You're not going to outcuss me. It's always...
And then y'all are in jail.
Yeah, now everybody's in jail. So for me, deep breaths as well, because they're scientifically proven to relax the body. So if you're ever getting angry or upset, that's one of the first and I feel like easiest things to do and remember is to take deep breaths. Deep breaths, all the way in, all the way out. Mm-hmm. And I just start to talk to myself. So like not audibly so people can hear me, but I'm like, okay, all right. And I'll either use Tony or, no, I usually use Mr. Franklin, my last name. Like, okay, Mr. Franklin, here we go. These people are making you upset. And, it is not a personal attack on you. Okay? Just relax, relax, relax. How are we going to do this? So I'm like making the game plan and I'm talking it out in my head. And so the more you do that, I feel like the faster you are at being able to get to the game plan or getting to gracefulness, to use your word, and getting to the place where you can handle the situation and do it in the best way, in the godly way, as we would try to say.
Yes.
And so the motivation comes from trying to really show people, to get back to the question, is to really show people what it means to be a follower of Jesus and to know and love God and try to then extend that same love to other people. That is my motivation as well. But also, I want people to understand, since we're on this topic here, I want people to understand that you can be yourself and do those things. You don't have to look like or sound like another person. Like, I really feel like if God made you to be a singer, like, be a singer. If God made you to work construction, work construction. If God made you to do insurance, like, your mind is created in a way where you can do that and you are great at it because that's how God made you. Do that thing. Like, you don't have to go out and be a pastor or a preacher to be, a witness or to be an example. The best example are the lives that we live.
Absolutely.
So God made me, I feel like, to be a teacher and a communicator. So I'm just trying to live in that. So now when people ask me, how do you do that? Or if people want to compliment me and tell me I'm good at something, then that opens the door for us to be able to, or for me to be able to share that. Because I think Carlos preached this in the sermon. He was on my 30th episode, if you want to go check him out, from Inspiration Church. He said that that you have to earn the right to be able to share God with people. So, like, if you have no relationship with whomever it is that you're talking to, oftentimes you haven't earned the right through the conversation or the relationship to really go into the depths of what, God looks like.
I mean,
yes, no, maybe so.
I get that. Like, I get that it would be easier to have an impact on others if you have that relationship with them so that you can have that space to share.
Right.
But that's just not always how it works.
Well, the relationship isn't always like we have to have a friendship that we've built over, a certain amount of time.
So sometimes it's just like a sliver of a window.
It's just, have we talked enough, even in our 1 or 2 or 3 minute conversation, for me to then be able to kind of open up and go to that next step?
So what if God just tells you, hey, go say that to that person?
You just gotta go. I believe if God is telling me to go talk to somebody, it's because He's prepared their heart.
He's already
built the relationship for me. So it's just time for me to just talk. Like, at that point.
He's the accelerator.
Yes, He is the great accelerator in your life. He will make things work when they're just not supposed to. And we've seen that in our lives as well. And that's Definitely. And speaking of that, our next number is actually 14.
Okay.
Because that's how many brothers and sisters I have. Which you know this. For everybody out there on the Wisdom app or watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you may be listening to the Living Numbers podcast. I have 14 brothers and sisters. And I mean, I would always attribute it to God because I feel like all good things come from Him. Um, the relationships with those brothers and sisters have kind of, I guess, fluctuated and blossomed at different times. And so when you start to talk to your siblings, if you have them, you start to see like that y'all see things very differently based on just your relationship with your parents. They see things from their perspective and you see them from yours. Sometimes stories will differ. You're like, well, that's what happened. Like that's what you saw or heard. And I'm notorious for just like forgetting stuff. So like there'll be a story and like I remember I think it was D-Lo. He was like, you remember that time Daddy knocked that cup out your hand and he was mad at you because something. And I was like, oh yeah, that did happen.
And it happened to you.
And it happened to me. I just clearly forgot, but it made an impact on him somehow for some reason. Wow. So there's always like these differing perspectives on family relationships and the trauma really that you all go through as a family, as siblings, because we see it different, obviously, than our parents do. Like they don't see like when we're together off to the side talking about it and those side conversations. And if they've had siblings, like if you have aunties and uncles, then maybe they'll remember that, oh yeah, we went off to the side and talked about our parents or just had those conversations. So do you have any stories where, because I know you have a brother and he's 18 years older than you are.
Yes.
A story where a situation happened, you remembered it one way, and then he remembered it a totally different way. There's probably 1,000 stories, I know.
There's a billion of them. Unfortunately, the story that I'm gonna tell isn't like a great one, but my mom's a character. Let's call her that, right?
Yes.
We're 18 years apart, like you said, and it's funny because I actually heard this quote I think yesterday. Like just because you grew up in the same household or you had the same parents doesn't mean you had the same childhood.
Yeah. That's especially the case for you two.
Yeah, because we have, I guess I would have Mom 2.0 and he had like the
original.
The OG version.
Which is not always the best version.
Yeah. So, when I was about, I want to say like 16-ish or something, my brother was staying with us with his family, and his youngest child spilled some hot chocolate on me.
Okay.
And he was like, Kia, I'm so sorry, let me clean this up for you. Let me like help you. Are you hurt or anything like that? And
how old were you at the time?
I was 16. And I think the baby was like 3 or something. Well, he doesn't remember that experience at all. But what I remember most was that my mom got upset that the child spilled hot chocolate on me and went off on the child and was like, why are you drinking this in the living room and you got this on her and I'm going to whoop your behind and blah, 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 this. And I was like, Mom, don't do that. Like that it's really okay. Not all that. I talked to him, a few years later about the experience because it actually caused him to leave. Like him and his wife decided, okay, let's leave. Like let's go to your mom's house. This is a lot. And one day we were talking and he was like, yeah, remember back when we moved in with so and so or whatever because XYZ happened? I was like, that's not what happened. Remember you left because of the hot chocolate thing. And he was like, I don't even. Yeah, that is why we. That is why we left.
That's why we left.
That's exactly what I was fuzzy about those details for however long it's been, but that's exactly what happened.
Oh man, that's funny.
And it was if you were there, to me it was a traumatic experience. Like I thought it was kind of
hot chocolate thing.
Yeah, like
and then they end up moving out.
They left because they
feel
felt
like
embarrassed.
That was like because of you? Did you at 16 were you like, this is my fault kind of thing?
I don't think I thought it was my fault, but I just felt like, okay, the situation didn't need that much like anger and
right. Y'all went overboard over some hot chocolate. Over 3-year-old. Like this was a mistake. What are we talking about? Y'all moving out for this? Interesting. Very interesting.
I mean, there's probably like some more.
Yeah, some background stuff that was happening that you didn't know about.
Then that's probably like the last straw or whatever, Yep. But yeah, he totally forgot about the whole thing.
That's funny. I remember, obviously, like, so there's differing perspectives on like my stepdad. And my brother had a different experience with my mom and those, I mean, just those two and that family dynamic. Because I just wasn't around for that. So sometimes it may go, Troy, my wonderful brother who was on, I don't remember what episode he was on, 30 something. But we talked about just regular brother stuff. But just how he looks at the family on that side is so much different than how I look at it. And I think even Asia's perspective is totally different too. Like, and we all have these same parents. But I think it all just comes from trauma. The traumatic experience that happened with them. And like, so they all look at me, unfortunately. I guess I'm not going to say unfortunately. I kind of earned this and some of it is not my fault. But as the golden boy, because I never got in trouble for anything. I didn't get in trouble because I feel like I wasn't doing nothing to get in trouble for.
I was going to say, like, in addition to trauma, I would say that, like, your own personal character can influence how you see a situation.
Yeah, that's true.
Or even how the other person reacts in a situation.
Yep.
So
they might, I mean, I probably had a little bit more leash, and you as well, because I think we were kind of looked at as the good kids. We had a little bit more leash on things that may happen. So, like, our misstep, we probably not going to get a whooping that first time.
Yeah.
We got a couple of missteps, but some of our siblings that have a little more missteps than our parents would like, they didn't have a long leash, especially once you start getting to teenage years, when it's like, I got to keep an eye on you.
And that's exactly what they do. They keep an eye on that one, and then the other one is
I'm just free to roam, baby. I can do whatever I want to do.
Exactly, because I can count on one hand how many whoopings I got. Like, I remember them all, whereas my brother was like, oh yeah, I got beat every other day.
Heck no, I was trying to stay out of trouble. Like,
that was the whole mind frame. Like, I don't even want this in my life. Like, I'm going to just do what I need to do.
How much trouble is this going to cause me? Can I get away with this? And what are the consequences? If I could deal with the consequences, and maybe I can get away with it anyway.
Because will I still be able to do the things I want to do?
Exactly.
If that is going to be taken away, like, I don't even want any parts of what I thought I was going to do.
Exactly.
Like, I'm good on that.
Plenty of other things to go out and do. I don't have to do this thing that may get me in trouble. So I just always hope and pray that, like, we could all be, like, on the same page as brothers and sisters. And that doesn't mean always talking all the time, but just at a point where everybody is, at the very least, at the minimum, just cool. Like, it's always cool when we are around, or, like, if somebody call, there's not a call like, oh, so-and-so is doing this. Now, I know, like, people are people. Like, My brothers and sisters are people. They're people too.
And that's a lot of personality.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So, yeah, I just, that's just me always wanting people to be together. Like, life is too short.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for family to bicker and go through long stints where they're not talking to each other.
Absolutely.
Because if something happens, something serious happens, the first people you call is family.
Mm-hmm.
So if we haven't talked in years because of something silly, or even if it wasn't silly, if it's something that we could have gotten past, but we didn't just because we're both stubborn, like, that's not worth it. That's not worth it.
I would agree. It's not worth it. Especially so now that we have Carter,
Yeah,
I just feel like
totally
it's
different.
even more important. I'm one of those people, or I guess beforehand, I was one of those people who was becoming the person that kind of disassociated. Like I kind of pulled
Distance
back.
yourself
I
from your
did. I
family.
distanced myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm an introvert. I'm slightly antisocial too. So like I really don't need that much interaction.
Yeah.
But when I think back on memories that I had, like with my grandparents and with family, like I want Carter to have that.
Yes.
I want him to be able to enjoy the family that he has while they're here. One of the most like painful experiences is was losing my grandparents. But still having all those memories with them is a comfort.
Yeah.
And with my aunts and uncles and everyone else, and I just want him to have that experience with his family. And so now I'm at a place where I really want everybody to gel and to get along.
Get along.
Yes.
At least for the younger ones, the little kids, because they don't have any control over that.
No.
And so, like, speaking of grandparents, like, I didn't really have much of a relationship with any of my grandparents. Like, I knew some of them, but they weren't people that I would call, like, when things were, even if something good was happening, I wouldn't think of my grandparents to call first.
Man, you got cheated.
I did. And so, like, a couple of them, no, just one. I got one left. And you want to talk about different perspectives based on family, like, depending on who you ask, like, this grandmother was a little bit different. So for me, it's just kind of indifference with this one. Like, again, I don't really hold grudges. I'm just kind of like, it is what it is. People are people. They mess up, they screw up. Some people will apologize and own up to their mistakes, and some people will not. And you have to be able to get past it, whether they apologize or not. And so, that's just kind of how I am with this grandmother. And it's just kind of like don't expect me to kind of go out of my way to be like this great grandson and tell her about all the things that's going on and at work and stuff like that. The relationship is just not that. That's not what it is.
It's just not there like that.
So, what advice would you give to someone? Our last question is 3, because I got 3 whats as I come to a close on the Living Numbers podcast. I'm your host, Tony Rambles. I have my wonderful wife, Kia, on. Just a little reset there. Shout out to everybody listening on Wisdom. What kind of advice would you give to someone in your position? Now, your position could be any position that you choose, like your position as a wife, your position at your job, your position with your family. You can kind of just give some advice there. Yeah, that's on the spot. That's good, right? That's good. I would say, okay, let's go with someone that is trying to balance having a career, being a mom, and being a wife. Because I don't think a lot of people are in that same position.
Gosh, do I have advice to that yet?
Yeah. You've been a mom for what, 10 months now?
10 months.
And you were pregnant for 9 of them, 9 extra months. So that's like 2 years of experience.
2 years experience.
So you should have some advice, at least a little bit.
I would think that in because we're in this mode of constantly juggling,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that, don't don't beat yourself up during this season.
Mm-hmm.
This is this is hard. I know that millions of people are doing it, and people will try to minimize your experience by saying, "Oh, people have babies every day, or people
Screw that.
do
Hey,
these things."
it's hard for all of us.
This is hard.
I'm gonna say most of us. Some people got it pretty easy. They got maids and stuff, I guess, but yeah, it's difficult.
And if you got money, get a maid.
Hey, get you somebody to cook and clean, because you're not gonna. I'm not gonna say you're not gonna have time. You're not gonna want to do that stuff.
You don't
want to
do it.
You just want to relax. Oh my gosh. Okay.
But someone else that I watched, can't quite remember who at the moment. It may have been like Raven Elise or someone. She talked about how some days you have to put one of the focuses at the forefront, and then the other focuses get a little less time. They get addressed, but they get a little less time.
Right.
So today might be a day where, I had a lot of career things going on in projects. Does that mean Carter and you get neglected? No. But do you get maybe the same energy? Not exactly. Then the next day, maybe it's a Tony day. And then the next day, maybe it's a day where, Carter has like my all, right?
Right.
But for the most part, because we can't do everything, even with those maids and cooks and everything else, right? Do not beat yourself up and try to drive yourself into perfection, because that's not the goal. You will never experience perfection. It will tear you down trying to strive for perfection rather than put you in a position where you can be impactful.
Right.
So don't beat yourself up. Just be in the moment with the things and the people that you have, and live the best you can.
Nice. That's great advice for anybody. Okay, our second what? If you weren't doing what you're doing now this is occupation wise.
Okay.
What would you be doing? If you could just choose something else to do, what would that thing be?
I wouldn't be working. I would be traveling.
Okay.
Like everywhere. I would be very well off. Apparently. I guess the reason for this is I didn't get to see or do much as a child, and I want to see and do a whole lot before I take my last breath.
Right.
I want to experience every country, every food, every culture. Like nice. I want to know it all, which is a lot.
If you guys want to help us to know it all, you can send gift cards and stuff. You can email it at onetonyrambles@gmail.com. If you guys want to fund our experience.
Knowing the Know It All tour.
Yeah, the Know It All tour. That would be awesome. I think that's what we'll call it once I start going on the road. Okay. Okay, last what before we get out of here. What are you giving your attention to the most?
Well, right now it's motherhood.
Yep.
And it's just the phase of life that we're in. We have a very small child. He needs a lot of our attention right now. And he's getting a lot of our attention. But I mean, I don't want that to sound like a bad thing, because this experience is actually a good experience. Like he is teaching me new things about really being a human. He's teaching me new things about myself too, because the level of patience it takes to be in this phase of life is a tall order of patience.
Yeah.
But that's okay because patience is a very versatile skill.
Yes, you can use patience everywhere.
Yes.
You can use it at home. You can use it at work. You can use it podcasting.
Podcasting, yes.
So I think that's a wrap.
Oh my goodness.
That was easy.
It was. It was a good time.
Thank you, of course. My wife is a behind the camera kind of person,
Yes,
but she will come on when I ask. So I'm thankful and grateful for her. Thank you all for listening and watching, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or Apple, whether you're listening to this today or tomorrow or 2, 3, 10 years from now. I just want to thank you for your support. Follow me on Instagram at _TonyRambles _. You can email the show, onetonyrambles@gmail.com, if you want to give me ideas and topics to discuss. I'm a communicator. So you can go ahead and send those things in. You can DM those on Instagram as well. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, download, and most of all, share this with someone that you think would enjoy it.
Absolutely. Oh, you know what?
Okay.
If you're on YouTube, please comment.
Yes, comment.
Engage. I'm sure you would love to hear from them.
Always.
Because they're your community.
Talk to me, I talk back.
Yes, he does. He talks back.
So, thank you. This is the Living Numbers Podcast, and I am your host, Tony Rambles, signing out for my wonderful wife, Kia. I'll see you all in the next ramble. Ramble on, friends.